Picture this. Caroline needs exactly $2,500 for an epic spring break trip. She's got $400 sitting in her bank account right now, and she just landed a sweet part-time gig making $15 an hour. Sounds super familiar, right? It's a classic real-world scenario, but how do we actually figure out if she's going to hit that goal in time? We can't just guess our way to an answer here. We need a reliable tool.
So here's the core problem we really need to solve. Exactly how many hours does Caroline have to work to afford this trip? And to make it even more realistic, let's say she's a full-time student, so she can only work, say, 4 hours a day. Honestly, establishing this concrete, real-world need for algebra is the absolute best first step to mastering it. We're going to use math to crack Caroline's problem.
So here is my promise to you. By the end of this explainer, you're going to know exactly how to translate everyday scenarios, just like Caroline's, into linear equations. You'll be able to solve them step by step, and you'll even know how to map them out visually on a graph.
Section 1. Solving basic linear equations.
Okay, so we got to build our foundation before we layer on the complex stuff. Whenever you think of basic algebra, you're almost always thinking of something called a conditional equation. Basically, it's an equation that's true for only some values of a variable, usually just one. So if you're solving an equation by isolating x, using fundamental operations like adding or dividing both sides by the exact same number, and you end up with an answer like x equals -4, boom, you've successfully solved a conditional equation.
All right, quick retention check. Did you know there are actually 2 other types of linear equations out there? On the left, we've got identity equations. These guys are true for absolutely all values. If you do the math and end up with something like x equals x, that's an identity. It's always true. Now on the right side, we have inconsistent equations. These result in a totally false statement, which means there is literally zero solution. So if your algebra leads you to something crazy like -15 equals -20, hey, you haven't made a mistake. You've just found yourself an inconsistent equation.
Section 2. Mastering rational equations.
Now that we've got the basic types down, let's tackle a concept that honestly causes a bit of panic sometimes. Rational equations. These are those pesky equations where variables are just hanging out in the denominator of a fraction. But hey, don't worry, they can easily be transformed right back into simple flat linear equations. Let's walk through the steps together, just like I was writing this on a whiteboard for you. Step 1, factor all of your denominators. Step 2, exclude your zero makers. Step 3, find your least common denominator or the LCD. And step 4, well, this is the absolutely crucial point. Multiply the entire equation by that LCD. When you multiply by the least common denominator, it literally cancels out the fractions entirely. You're just left with a nice, flat, easy-to-solve equation.
Now, you might be asking yourself, wait, why does this happen? Why do we have to intentionally exclude certain values right at the very beginning of the problem? Like, what even is a zero maker?
Well, the answer all comes down to one of the most unbreakable rules in all of mathematics. We can never divide by 0. Literally, never. If an x value makes your original denominator equal to 0, it makes the whole fraction completely undefined. So think about it. If we solve our beautifully flat equation at the very end, and the answer happens to be one of those zero makers, it's an invalid solution. It's a fake out. We got to throw it out.
Actually, wait, hold on, this is absolutely important. A massive, super common mistake happens right here. When you are finding your LCD, you must always treat binomials, like an x minus 1 sitting in parentheses, as a single inseparable factor. You literally cannot separate the x from the minus 1. It's a package deal. You have to treat that whole parentheses as one unique building block when you're assembling your least common denominator.
Section 3. Finding the linear equation.
All right, we've done the heavy algebraic lifting. Let's pivot back to the real world and check in on Caroline's spring break trip. This brings us to the single most famous math format of all time, slope-intercept form. You know it, y equals mx plus b. Let's connect this right back to our real-life analogy. The b is the y-intercept, right? That's your starting point. For Caroline, that's her $400 initial deposit. And the m? That is your slope, which represents the rate of change. So for Caroline, that's her wage of $15 an hour. Putting it all together, her earnings equation is simply y equals 15x plus 400. It's that simple.
But what if you don't know the starting point? What if you're only given the slope and one random point on a line? Well, that's exactly where this critical formula comes in, the point-slope formula. Y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. I really want you to lock this one in because it is absolutely required for things like college algebra and calculus. With just one single coordinate point and the slope,
You can literally define any straight line in existence.
Let's clear up a super common point of confusion while we're visualizing these graphs. Vertical lines, they go straight up and down on the x-axis. Their equation is literally just x equals a constant, and their slope is completely undefined. Imagine trying to walk straight up a sheer rock cliff. Horizontal lines, on the other hand, go perfectly left to right. Their equation is y equals a constant, and their slope is exactly 0. It's perfectly flat, easy to walk ground.
Section 4. Parallel and perpendicular lines.
So now that we can comfortably graph a single line, let's look at what happens when two different linear equations interact on the exact same graph. What's really cool here is that you can tell exactly how two lines relate just by looking at their m values, their slopes. Parallel lines have the exact same slope. If one slope is 2, the other is 2. They'll run side by side forever and literally never cross paths. Perpendicular lines, however, intersect at a perfect 90-degree angle. Their slopes are negative reciprocals. So if one line has a slope of 3, the perpendicular line has a slope of negative 1/3. Just remember, flip the fraction, flip the sign.
If you are ever asked to write a brand new equation based on its relationship to an existing line, just follow this exact procedure. First, identify the slope of your original line. Second, determine your new slope. Keep it the exact same for parallel or take that negative reciprocal for perpendicular. Third, plug that new slope and your new point into our trusty point-slope formula. And finally, just simplify the whole shebang down into y equals mx plus b.
Section 5. Summary and final thought.
We've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, all the way from basic algebra to graphing perpendicular relationships. So before we wrap up, let's summarize the key takeaways to really lock these skills in. Number 1. You can categorize equations into conditional, identity, or inconsistent. Number 2. You conquer those scary rational equations by multiplying by the least common denominator. Number 3. You can translate real-world problems, like Caroline's $15 wage and $400 deposit, directly into y equals mx plus b. And number 4. You can easily spot parallel and perpendicular lines just by comparing their slopes.
So, here is my final provocative question for you to chew on. Now that you actually understand the math, can you apply the point-slope formula to calculate the exact day you'll reach your own personal savings goal? Because honestly, math isn't just a bunch of numbers on a page, it's a tool to map out your real life. Give it a try, and I'll see you in our next explainer where we take these exact equations and